And I want to talk about the the Gnostics first when it comes to, let's just say, the rulers of the Gnostic shit, from the Nomad to Barbaro to Sophia to the Demiurge, and like like all the like that hierarchy. And then after that video, I'm going to get off into all the real true meanings. I can probably say the real true meanings of all the, let's just say, the spirituality type shit and what we really supposed to be doing. We're going to get off into this one first. It ain't going to be a long video, probably maybe like 30, 40 minutes. Probably like a little over 40, probably. We'll see. But just kick back and listen.
The monad. All right, imagine the ultimate source of reality, but remove literally everything you normally imagine when you think of a god. No throne, no beard, no lightning bolts, no judging humans from the clouds. In Gnostic philosophy, the highest reality is called the monad, also known as the one or the invisible spirit. And the reason it's called invisible is simple. Not because it's hiding, but because it's so far beyond reality that you can't even picture it properly. Think of the monad as pure existence itself, not a person, not a being sitting somewhere in space, more like infinite consciousness before anything else existed, before matter, before time, before galaxies, before all the embarrassing things you said in 2013. Everything. The monad is perfect unity, meaning it has no division, no conflict, no ignorance, no flaws, which is actually a big deal in Gnosticism, because according to Gnostic texts, the material universe is kind of a mess. And if the monad is perfect, then clearly something weird must have happened along the way. So instead of directly creating the universe, the monad emanates divine realities called aeons. Think of it less like building something and more like light radiating outward from a source. The first of these emanations is usually Barbelo, often described as the first thought of the monad. Yep, the first cosmic event in some Gnostic systems is basically God had a thought, and that thought became an entire divine being. From there, more aeons emerge, forming the pleroma, which basically means the realm of divine fullness, the highest spiritual reality. Barbelo. In many Gnostic texts, Barbelo is described as the first emanation of the monad, sometimes called the first thought, the divine mother, or the womb of the pleroma. Basically, before the universe, before angels, before anything spiritual existed, the monad had a kind of self-awareness, and that awareness became Barbelo. You could think of Barbelo as the reflection of the monad, or the first expression of divine intelligence. And Gnostics gave Barbelo a lot of titles because, honestly, they were trying to describe something almost impossible to describe. Some texts call Barbelo the first thought, the foreknowledge, the mother-father, the womb of the all, the invisible spirit's image. So yeah, Barbelo is kind of a big deal. In Gnostic cosmology, Barbelo becomes the origin point of the aeons, the divine beings that fill the pleroma, the spiritual realm of fullness, the aeons. So after the divine beings that fill the pleroma, the spiritual realm of fullness, the aeons. So after the monad and Barbelo, the Gnostic universe doesn't suddenly jump to planets and humans. Instead, it fills up with something called aeons. Now, the word aeon literally means eternal being or divine age. But in Gnosticism, aeons are basically emanations of the divine mind, spiritual beings that express different aspects of the ultimate reality. Think of it like this. The monad is the source. Barbelo is the first expression of that source, and the aeons are the unfolding layers of divine intelligence. The aeons usually appear in pairs, often called syzygies, basically divine couples, because in Gnostic thought, reality is balanced through complementary forces. So you'll often see aeons paired like nous and aletheia, mind and truth, logos and zoe, word and life, anthropos and ecclesia, heavenly, human, and divine community. Each pair represents a different principle of divine reality. Sophia, among all the aeons in Gnostic cosmology, one figure stands out more than almost anyone else. Her name is Sophia, and her story is basically where everything in the universe goes wrong. Sophia's name literally means wisdom. She is one of the divine beings in the pleroma, but Sophia has a problem, curiosity. She wants to understand the monad, the ultimate source of everything. Now that sounds reasonable, right? The only issue is, in Gnostic thought, the monad is completely unknowable. So when Sophia tries to grasp the infinite source on her own, outside the balanced order of the aeons, something goes very wrong. Instead of gaining perfect knowledge, Sophia accidentally creates something imperfect. From this mistake emerges a being called Yaldabaoth, also known as the Demiurge, who creates the material world. Meanwhile, Sophia realizes what has happened and begins the process of trying to repair the cosmic mistake. Some versions of the story say she helps place a divine spark inside humanity, a fragment of the higher divine realm, which means humans contain something extraordinary, a small piece of the divine pleroma hidden inside a material body. Yaldabaoth. According to many Gnostic texts, when Sophia tried to understand the monad on her own, she accidentally produced an imperfect being. That being was Yaldabaoth. And because he was created outside the balanced order of the Pleroma, Yaldabaoth is flawed and ignorant, very ignorant. In fact, he doesn't even realize the higher divine realm exists, so he looks around, sees nothing above him, and comes to the completely reasonable conclusion, I must be the only God. Classic mistake. Some Gnostic texts even quote him saying something like, I am God and there is no other beside me, which is awkward, because the monad Barbelo and the entire Pleroma are basically watching this like, bro. Yaldabaoth is often described with strange imagery, sometimes with the head of a lion and the body of a serpent, symbolizing power mixed with ignorance. Because even though he isn't the true God, he still has creative power, and he uses that power to create the material universe. Archons. So once Yaldabaoth creates the material universe, he doesn't run the whole thing alone. Instead, he creates a group of powerful helpers called the Archons. The word Archon actually means ruler or authority. In a Gnostic cosmology, that's basically what they are, cosmic rulers who manage the material world. Think of the Archons like administrators of the universe, not the ultimate creators, but the ones running the system day to day. In many Gnostic texts, the Archons are said to rule the layers of the cosmos, especially the 7 planetary spheres surrounding the Earth. Each sphere is governed by an Archon, and these beings control the structures of the material world. But here's the problem. The Archons are not enlightened beings. Just like their creator, they are ignorant of the higher divine realm, the Pleroma. They believe the material universe is the only reality that exists, and because of that ignorance, their role becomes something very specific. They maintain the illusion of the material world and keep human beings distracted from discovering their true divine origin. Some Gnostic writings even describe them influencing systems of control, false beliefs about reality, and the structures that keep people focused only on the physical world. Now, to be clear, Gnostics didn't always describe Archons as simple villains. Sometimes they're portrayed more like cosmic gatekeepers, beings who enforce the laws of the lower universe. But either way, their power only exists within the material realm, and this leads to one of the most important ideas in Gnosticism. Even though Archons may rule the physical universe, humans still carry a divine spark from the Pleroma, which means through Gnosis, spiritual knowledge and awakening, the soul can eventually rise beyond the Archons and return to the higher divine realm. Christ. So after the monad, Barbelo, the Aeon, Sophia, the Demiurge, and the Archons, the Gnostic story introduces a very important character, Christ. But in Gnosticism, Christ's role is a little different from the one most people grew up hearing about. In many Gnostic texts, Christ is less like a cosmic sacrifice, and more like a divine insider revealing the system. Because remember the situation. The Demiurge thinks he's the only god. The Archons are running the universe like overconfident middle managers. And humanity is down here living their lives with a literal spark of divine reality inside them, but completely unaware of it. So from the perspective of the higher divine realm, the situation looks something like, wow, they really have no idea what's going on. That's where Christ comes in. In Gnostic belief, Christ is a divine aeon from the Pleroma, sent down to the material world to deliver a very important message. Basically, hey, you're not actually from here. The whole mission of Christ in Gnostic thought is to bring gnosis, which means direct spiritual knowledge, not just belief, not just rituals, actual understanding of the hidden structure of reality. Because according to Gnostics, the problem with humanity isn't really sin. It's ignorance. People forgot where they came from. Some Gnostic texts even suggest Christ wasn't fully physical in the normal sense, more like a divine messenger appearing in human form. So in the Gnostic story, Christ's mission is simple: wake humanity up, remind people that the material world isn't the ultimate reality, and that inside them is a divine spark from the Pleroma, the luminaries. These are another group of important beings. Now the word luminary basically means a being of light, which already sounds impressive. The luminaries are powerful divine beings that exist in the higher spiritual realms, especially within the Pleroma. You can think of them as high-level guardians of divine knowledge, almost like the administrators of the spiritual universe, except unlike the Archons, these ones actually know what's going on. In some Gnostic texts, especially the Apocryphon of John, there are 4 main luminaries. These are Harmozo, Oroio, Devita, and Elilith. Each of them rules over different spiritual realms and helps maintain the order of the divine world above the material universe. The luminaries are associated with awakening and enlightenment. They help guide souls back toward the divine source. So while the Archons are basically running the lower cosmic bureaucracy, the luminaries are more like the higher spiritual council, making sure the divine realm stays in perfect order. And according to Gnostic belief, when someone achieves gnosis, true spiritual knowledge, they begin reconnecting with that higher world of light where the luminaries dwell.
All right. Now that was the hierarchy of Gnosticism. Comes to the monad, Barbelo, and Sophia and the other aeons and the demiurge and the archons, the luminaries. Now we're about to get off into the top 20 spiritual concepts everyone thinks they know or thinks they understand. You feel me? When we got to live in a state of knowing. But we're going to hit you with the top 20. And like, I studied all these bitches. Real shit. I studied all these motherfuckers. But everybody get off into it. This video is like 26 minutes. So let's get it. Told you ain't gonna be here too long.
Gnosis. This is one of those words that sounds deep, and people immediately assume it just means knowledge.
Gnosis.
Like reading books, collecting ideas, or being that one friend who knows random spiritual facts and won't stop talking about them. But
yeah. There's a lot of motherfuckers like that on motherfucking YouTube. Every time you see them, there's always a spiritual quote here, spiritual quote there. Like, God damn. Are these your thoughts? Or you just regurgitate other shit? You know what I'm saying? All you gotta do is be yourself.
This is not that. It's not information. It's not theory. It's not, I watched a YouTube video and now I get it. Gnosis is supposed to be direct knowing. The kind of understanding that hits you in a way you can't unsee, not something you memorized. In traditions like early Gnosticism, especially texts from the Nag Hammadi library, Gnosis is more like waking up to reality rather than learning about it. It's the difference between reading about fire and actually getting burned. One is secondhand, the other is undeniable. Gnosis is supposed to feel like that, personal, internal, and almost impossible to fully explain to someone else without them experiencing it themselves. So basically, Gnosis is less about gaining something.
Yeah. Talk about Gnosis, Dot. That was, yeah. Gnosis about true state of knowing. You feel me? Hold on, let's keep going.
And more about realizing something that was already there, just unnoticed. It's not flashy. It's not always dramatic. Sometimes it's subtle, like a shift in how you interpret your own thoughts, your reactions, your identity. And once it clicks, you don't need to convince anyone. You just move differently. Non-duality. The word itself literally means not two, which already sounds suspicious. Because when you look around, life clearly looks like a lot of things. You and other people, mind and body, subject and object, two things everywhere. But non-duality argues that this separation is not actually fundamental to reality. It's something the mind creates to organize experience. Think about it like this. Your brain is basically a very enthusiastic label maker. This is me. That is the world. That is my annoying neighbor. The mind divides reality into pieces so it can function. But non-dual philosophies, like Advaita Vedanta, Zen Buddhism, and Taoist philosophy, say that underneath all those labels, reality itself is not divided. At the deepest level, everything is part of one unified existence or consciousness. A classic example they use is the ocean. Imagine waves on the surface of the sea. Every wave looks separate, different size, different shape, but none of them are actually separate from the ocean. They are just the ocean appearing as waves. Non-duality says reality might work the same way. People, animals, planets, galaxies, all the different things we see could just be different expressions of the same underlying reality. So from this perspective, the divisions we experience in everyday life are useful for survival, but not necessarily how reality works at the deepest level. Ego death. This is one of those spiritual terms that sounds way more dramatic than it actually is. The name alone makes it sound like some kind of mystical assassination. But no, nobody is spiritually dying, at least not in the literal sense. In psychology and spirituality, the ego simply refers to the part of your mind that creates your sense of identity. The voice in your head that says things like, this is my personality, this is my story, and this is why I'm right and everyone else is wrong. Basically, the ego is your brain's main character narrator. It organizes your memories, beliefs, roles, and personal identity into one continuous story. Without it, life would feel extremely confusing. But many spiritual traditions say that this identity is not the deepest part of who you are. It's more like a mental construct, a useful one, but still a construct. Ego death refers to moments when that sense of identity temporarily breaks down or dissolves. For a brief period, the mind stops strongly identifying with its usual story of me. The constant narration quiets down. The boundaries between self and experience can feel less rigid. This can happen in different contexts: deep meditation, certain mystical experiences, near-death experiences, or, in some cases, powerful psychedelic experiences. During ego death, people often report feeling like their normal identity disappears for a while, not in a scary way, although it can feel weird at first. Imagine an actor who has been playing the same role for so long that they start believing they actually are the character. Then one day they step off the stage and remember, oh right, I'm just the actor. That's the basic idea behind ego death. The personality doesn't permanently disappear. You still remember your name, you still pay your bills, you still forget where you left your keys. But the experience can create the realization that the identity we cling to so tightly might not be the full picture of who we are. The higher self. This is one of those spiritual terms that sounds very mystical, but when you ask 10 people what it means, When you ask 10 people what it means, you'll probably get 12 different answers. In general, the higher self refers to the idea that beyond your everyday personality, your habits, fears, opinions, and random late-night thoughts, there exists a deeper, wiser level of consciousness connected to you. Think of your normal self as the version of you that handles daily life, the one worrying about money, deadlines, and all. But the higher self, according to many spiritual traditions, is the more expanded version of you that isn't caught up in all that noise. It's often described as the part of your consciousness that is calm, aware, intuitive, and connected to a larger reality. You can find this idea in a lot of different philosophies. In Platonism, it resembles the idea of the soul connected to the realm of higher truth. In Hindu philosophy, it's similar to the Atman, the deeper self beyond the ego. Different languages, same general idea. Your everyday personality might be like the player character in a video game. The higher self is more like the player holding the controller. The character is running around the map, worrying about enemies and missions. Meanwhile, the player is sitting on the couch seeing the entire game screen. Spiritual awakening. This is one of the most talked about ideas in spirituality, and also one of the most misunderstood, because the name makes it sound like something very dramatic happens. Like one morning you wake up glowing, floating 3 inches above your bed, suddenly understanding the secrets of the universe. Unfortunately, most awakenings are much less cinematic than that. In simple terms, spiritual awakening refers to a shift in how a person perceives reality, themselves, and their place in the world. Before this shift, most people experience life on autopilot. You follow routines, adopt beliefs from society, identify strongly with your roles, opinions, and personal story. Your worldview feels fixed. Awakening describes moments when that worldview starts to crack open. People begin questioning things they previously took for granted, ideas about identity, reality, purpose. It's less like gaining new information and more like seeing the same reality from a completely different angle. Also, awakening doesn't necessarily mean someone becomes enlightened, perfect, or permanently peaceful. Instead, awakening is usually described as the beginning of a process, not the end of one. In other words, spiritual awakening isn't about escaping reality. It's about starting to see reality differently, which can be exciting, confusing, and occasionally make you question literally everything you thought you knew. The third eye. Spiritually speaking, the third eye isn't growing a physical eye in the middle of your forehead. It's a symbolic way of describing a higher level of perception or awareness. The idea appears in several traditions, especially Hinduism and certain Buddhist teachings, where it is associated with the Ajna chakra, located roughly in the center of the forehead. This chakra is believed to represent intuition, insight, and inner perception. The third eye is supposed to represent seeing beyond the surface of things, seeing patterns, understanding deeper meanings, perceiving reality in a more intuitive way. You can think of it like the difference between looking and understanding. Two people can see the exact same situation, but one person instantly understands what's really going on beneath it. The third eye is often used as a metaphor for that kind of inner clarity. In spiritual traditions, practices like meditation, contemplation, and self-reflection are sometimes said to help open the third eye. Karma. Most people think karma simply means what goes around comes around, like some kind of cosmic revenge system. You cut someone off in traffic, and the universe immediately schedules your tire to go flat. But in its original philosophical context, karma is actually a lot more nuanced than that. The word karma comes from Sanskrit and literally means action. In traditions like Hinduism, Buddhism, and Jainism, karma refers to the idea that actions, especially intentional actions, create consequences that shape future experiences, not just externally, but internally as well. Every action you take leaves an imprint on your habits, your character, your tendencies. Think of it like mental conditioning. If someone repeatedly acts with anger, selfishness, or cruelty, those behaviors slowly shape the type of person they become. On the other hand, actions based on compassion, discipline, and patience tend to shape a very different kind of mind. So karma is less like a supernatural punishment system and more like a law of psychological and moral cause and effect. God. Well, God is whatever you think God is. Because every time humans talk about God, they're not describing something they've all seen the same way. They're describing something filtered through their own perception, culture, and mind. Think about it. A Christian might describe God as a personal father. A Hindu might describe God as an infinite consciousness. A Taoist might say God isn't even a being at all. An atheist might say the idea itself is human-made. Same word, completely different meanings. So what's going on? Philosophically, this idea isn't new. In Immanuel Kant's philosophy, he argued that humans never experience reality directly. We only experience reality as filtered through our perception. What we call truth is always shaped by how the mind interprets it. So if that applies to objects, it definitely applies to something as abstract as God. Then you have Ludwig Feuerbach, who took it even further. He argued that God is essentially a projection of human qualities. People take their highest values, love, power, justice, and project them outward as a divine being. In his words, when people describe God, they're actually describing an idealized version of themselves. Then comes Friedrich Nietzsche, who introduced the idea of perspectivism, the idea that there is no single objective viewpoint of truth, only interpretations shaped by perspective. So when different people define God differently, Nietzsche would say, of course they do. They're all interpreting through their own lens. So when I say God is whatever you think God is, I'm not saying God changes form like a shapeshifter. I'm saying your experience and definition of God is inseparable from your perception, because you don't interact with God directly. You interact with your understanding of God. And that understanding is built from your upbringing, your beliefs, your experiences, your psychological needs, your worldview. So in practice, The version of God that exists in your life is the version your mind is capable of perceiving. Shadow work. This idea actually comes from psychology, specifically from the Swiss psychologist Carl Jung. Jung used the term shadow to describe the parts of our personality that we hide, suppress, or reject. These are traits, emotions, or impulses that don't fit with the image we want to have of ourselves. Anger, jealousy, insecurity, selfishness, sometimes even talents or desires we were told were unacceptable. Instead of acknowledging these parts, people often push them out of conscious awareness. Basically, the mind goes, yeah, we're just going to pretend that part of me doesn't exist. But the thing is, ignoring the shadow doesn't make it disappear. It just means it starts influencing your behavior from the background. For example, someone who believes they are always calm and nice might secretly suppress their anger, but that anger might still come out in indirect ways. Shadow work refers to the process of recognizing and integrating these hidden parts of the personality, not to justify harmful behavior, but to become more aware of what is actually happening inside your own mind. Collective consciousness.
Whatever that past life was, it was in the way of the connection. And after that, I had a completely different experience.
I'd had images, lots, of being in a dungeon, in a castle, in just horrendous desolation.
In one instant, I was
To become more aware of what is actually happening inside your own mind. Collective consciousness. This means your thoughts are not entirely your own. Think about how you see the world, what you believe is right or wrong, what you think success looks like, how you react to things emotionally. You didn't create all of that from scratch. You absorbed it from your family, from your environment, from culture, from social media, from the people around you. That shared layer of thoughts, beliefs, and emotional patterns, that's collective consciousness. It's like an invisible mental atmosphere that everyone is breathing in. Ever noticed how suddenly everyone is talking about the same topic? Certain opinions become obvious truths overnight. Trends, fears, and even moods spread across people.
Yeah, I
That's
think
not
I
random.
covered that.
That's people tapping into the same.
I covered that on the
ideas. It
HHN.
goes deeper because it's not just ideas; it's also emotions. Fear can spread through a population.
Salute
Excitement
Charles
can
at the-
spread. Anger can spread. One event happens, and millions
Just
of
making it
people
back
feel
in.
something similar at the same time. It's like people are more connected mentally than they realize. Now, here's the part that makes it interesting. If you're
Yeah, I didn't get the track. And I don't know what's up with my band lab. You know, they keep on wanting me to motherfucking keep updating and shit. But yeah, I'm updating it now, but my phone is acting like an asshole. Yeah, I think I saw your messages. You said you about to send it to me. But like there is another way I could probably do it. You know, like if you drop the track, I could get Vonta to download it and just send it to me through the MP3. You know, I don't know how they do it. I don't know how y'all do it. So I was like, fuck it. You know, like I forgot you watch Here's the Deal. Yep, I already covered it. Yeah.
mind is influenced by this shared field, then some of your thoughts are not coming from you. They're coming from what you've been exposed to. So when you think, this is just how I am, it might actually be, this is what I've been conditioned to think. That's why awareness matters, because once you realize this, you can start asking, is this really my belief? Or did I pick this up from the world around me? So in one clean line, collective consciousness is the shared mental and emotional environment that shapes how people think, feel, and see reality. Manifestation. You've seen it everywhere. Think it and it will come. Visualize your dream life. Act like you already have it. It sounds powerful, almost like you can just sit down, imagine a Ferrari, and the universe will start checking delivery options. That's the popular version, and it's a bit misleading. The real idea behind manifestation is simple. Your thoughts influence your actions, and your actions influence your results. So if you believe something is possible, you're more likely to act in ways that move you toward it, not because the universe is magically rearranging itself, but because you are. Now here's where people get it wrong. They think manifestation is just about thinking. So they sit there visualizing, affirming, repeating phrases like they're trying to convince reality to cooperate. Meanwhile, nothing is actually changing in what they do. And then when it doesn't work, they either blame themselves or say, I didn't believe hard enough, which is a very creative way of turning.
Right. But I think like a best way for me to get it, I think you gotta make it public. I think you probably got your song set to private, but if you're done, just set it to public and it should be able to pop up on my end. And then I could be able to download it on my end. I think that's a quick way too. You just got to take it off of private. or just drop the track on your channel and I get someone to download the track and just send it to me through the email. We'll find a way to make it happen. Like people, if we need a revolution, only a few said yes. Disappointing people have become soft. Yep, I agree. But what they don't understand is this. All the shit I'm talking about now, they got to do all the inner work and all the shadow work before they even can truly make a real, true decision on if they'll do a revolution. Because, like, they got to know who they are. Like, otherwise, they just moved by fear. They so caught up in the political and religious dogma. Part of them believes something is going to come out the sky and save them. Or part of them believes some fucking human being is going to come out the woodwork and save them. You know what I'm saying? So it's like them relying on another person to save them. Like, that's already the fail. You know, that's already a red flag. But like, people been so indoctrinated. People are so indoctrinated. Yeah. Yeah, to try to send the link again or just set the song to public, you know, because if you finish, you can just set it to public. And then it should pop up on my end because I'm collaborating with you. And plus, I think you got to change the name of the song too. I think the song is still under Untitled. Did you name the song yet? Because I tried to go to it. I ain't see no link. I tried to click on the song. It didn't want to play. I'm like, man, something up with my band lab, or maybe something was up with my phone. But yeah, when it comes to people, man, they, like they scared of revolution. And plus, they made sure in school that they didn't talk about many revolutions. You know what I'm saying? Because if you talk about revolutions a lot in school, and the political shit that started it and all the, all the key figures and names, it'll probably make a whole bunch of motherfucking kids remember, yeah, we read about this in school. They started a revolution. Let's start a revolution. You know what I'm saying? They could have, leave a motherfucking seed in their mind for revolution later. Like that's why they took certain shit out the Bible, because like it was going to be a revolution with the Bible. Or read the Geneva Bible. Yeah. That there was like, we don't battle against flesh and blood, but principalities and powers and demons in high places, whatever the fuck they said. But inside of that shit, it was governments too. I was like, what? Yeah, motherfucker, read that. Yeah, they have to do something. Yeah, no, I did name it. Okay, yeah, you might have to name it. And then set it to public. Still send it though, So like hopefully, when I check the band lab after this, it should be there, and I could be able to make a quick video.
Imagination into pressure. The truth is, manifestation without action is just daydreaming. Your mindset matters, yes, but it matters because it shapes your behavior. If you see opportunities, you take them. If you believe you can improve, you try. If you think everything is pointless, you don't move at all. There's also another side people ignore. Sometimes you can think positively, visualize clearly, and still not get what you want. Not because you failed spiritually, but because reality involves other factors: timing, circumstances, other people. The universe is not your personal assistant. So a more grounded way to look at manifestation is this. It's not about controlling reality with your thoughts. It's about aligning your thinking with your actions so you actually move in a direction. Soul contracts. The idea is simple on the surface. Before you were born, your soul supposedly sat down somewhere in the universe and signed a few agreements. Like, yeah, I'll take emotional growth, a little character development, and one extremely confusing relationship. Right. And now you're here, living out the contract. According to this belief, the people you meet, especially the intense ones, are not random. They're part of a plan. So that one person who changed your life, broke your heart, then came back, yeah, apparently that was scheduled. That's why people use soul contracts to explain difficult relationships. The toxic partner, the friend who betrayed you, the situations that made you question everything. Instead of saying, I made a bad decision, it becomes, this was part of my soul's journey, which is a very spiritual way of saying, I'm trying to make sense of this mess. Now, whether this is literally true or not is another discussion, but psychologically, it does something powerful. It gives meaning to pain. It turns random, frustrating experiences into something that feels intentional. And honestly, that's comforting because this has a purpose, sounds better than I have no idea what's going on. The problem is when people take it too far, because if everything is a soul contract, then suddenly you're stuck. You start thinking, maybe I'm supposed to suffer here. And now you're in a bad situation holding on like, let me just complete this spiritual assignment real quick. Meanwhile, your peace is gone. A more grounded way to look at it is this. Whether or not you agreed to anything before birth, some experiences in your life do force growth. Certain people will challenge you, expose your patterns, and push you to change, not because it was written in some cosmic contract, but because that's how life works. So instead of asking, was this destined? A better question is, what am I learning from this? That keeps you aware without trapping you in something unhealthy. Vibration. You've heard it everywhere. Raise your vibration. Protect your energy. It sounds deep, but most people don't actually know what it means. At its simplest, vibration is just your emotional and mental state. It's how you feel most of the time, how you think, and how you carry yourself. When you're calm, forcing positivity, ignoring the real emotions, trapping you in something unhealthy. Vibration. You've heard it everywhere. Raise your vibration. Protect your energy. It sounds deep, but most people don't actually know what it means. At its simplest, vibration is just your emotional and mental state. It's how you feel most of the time, how you think, and how you carry yourself. When you're calm, focused, and clear, people call that high vibration. When you're anxious, angry, or constantly negative, they call that low vibration. But this is where people get it wrong. They think high vibration means being happy all the time. So they start forcing positivity, ignoring their real emotions, pretending everything is fine even when it's not. That's not high vibration, that's avoidance. Real vibration is not about feeling good all the time. It's about how you handle what you feel. Because emotions will come no matter what. You will feel anger, sadness, frustration.
Salute.
The difference is whether those emotions
DJ Overtime,
control
what
you,
up, though?
or you stay aware while experiencing them. When you're operating at a more stable level internally, you don't react to everything immediately. You pause, you observe, you respond instead of reacting. That's what people actually mean by raising your vibration, even if they don't explain it properly. And this is where it becomes practical. Your internal state affects your decisions. The way you feel influences how you act, what you tolerate, and what situations you stay in. Over time, those decisions shape your life. So it's not some mysterious frequency that magically attracts things to you. It's your state of mind influencing your behavior, and your behavior creating your outcome. It's your state of mind influencing your behavior, and your behavior creating your outcomes. Tantra. Most people hear that word and immediately think sex, mystical sex, spiritual sex. That's the popular version, and it's incomplete. The real Tantra has almost nothing to do with what social media sells you. At its core, Tantra is about this, using everything in life as a tool for awareness, not escaping reality, not avoiding the body, but going through it consciously. Here's the difference. A lot of spiritual paths say, control yourself, detach from desire.
Shout out to DJ Overtime. Tired of pause. Had a DJ gig and your physical therapy. Woo! At least you got it done. You knocked it out. Long as you cool, laid back, chilling, you good. Salute Jordan. Shout out to Jordan. We about to get up out of here in a minute. I'm at 16 minutes. I got like a 26-minute video talking about the top 20 spirituality shits that people think they understand. So they'll be talking about it, going over what people think it is, and we're giving you what it is. Yep. Shouts out to 1079 DJ Overtime. You already know. Yep, just got here. Your phone done. Ain't that a bitch? But yeah, we're just talking about spirituality. I think I'm gonna call it Spirituality Saturday, but Supernatural Saturday sounds better. Yep. And shout out to Jordan for that live earlier. Like Jordan had a album release party. He dropped the album. Dropped the Veracity album, aka the Funk Master album. Nice dog ass party album. That's some shit you can play back to back. It just fucking jam. You can jam that fucking album everywhere. Yeah, they messed with the first live. He had to do another one on the StreamYard. But the first one is 17 minutes. I think the second one goes all out. I forgot the minutes on that, but the first was like 17 and some change. But yeah, make sure you watch both of them. The motherfuckers hating. We can't play no old school jams. Detroit beat Boston. Yeah, like we needed that win anyway. Like we was losing like a motherfucker when it started. So now we probably like what 12-9 or some shit. We needed that win. On some real shit. We needed that win. Go Tigers.
Transcend the physical. Tantra says, no, experience it, but stay aware. So instead of running from things like emotions, pleasure, pain, desire, Tantra asks you to face them, feel them, but don't get lost in them. And yes, that includes sex, but not in the way people think. It's not about performance. It's not about techniques. It's not even about pleasure alone. It's about presence, being fully aware in the moment, abundance. Most people think abundance means having a lot of money, opportunities, success, connections, basically life going your way. And yeah, that's part of it, but that's the surface version. At a deeper level, abundance is about how you see what's available to you. It's the difference between thinking there's not enough for me and thinking there are opportunities, I just have to move toward them. One mindset closes you off before you even try, the other keeps you open. Now here's where it gets misunderstood. People think abundance is just positive thinking, so they start repeating things like, I have everything I need, while their actions are saying the complete opposite. It turns into pretending instead of actually shifting anything. Real abundance is not about ignoring reality. It's about not limiting yourself before you even test what's possible. It shows up in how you make decisions. Do you hold back because you assume things won't work? Or do you try, adjust, and keep moving? There's also a quiet part people overlook. Abundance is not always loud success. Sometimes it's stability. Sometimes it's having enough and recognizing it instead of constantly feeling like you're lacking something. Because you can have a lot and still feel like it's not enough, which means the mindset never changed. And no, abundance doesn't mean everything will just flow to you without effort. That would be nice, but life doesn't work like that. You still have to act, take risks, and deal with uncertainty. The mindset just makes you more willing to do those things. Dark night of the soul. This is more like your entire sense of meaning just stops working. The idea comes from spiritual traditions that describe a phase where everything that used to give your life direction suddenly feels empty. Your beliefs don't hit the same. Your goals feel pointless. Even things you used to enjoy start feeling flat. It's like your inner system just crashes and there's no restart button. And no, it's not just a bad mood. This isn't I'm having a rough week. This is more like, why does anything matter at all? Which is not exactly the kind of question you ask casually on a Tuesday afternoon and move on from. What makes it confusing is that nothing necessarily has to be wrong on the outside. Your life could look normal. People around you might think you're fine. Meanwhile, internally, you're questioning everything. Some people describe it as a spiritual awakening. Others call it a breakdown. Honestly, sometimes it feels like both, because you're losing old ways of thinking, but you haven't built new ones yet. So you're just there in between. Not who you were, but not sure who you're becoming. You can't rush it. You can't just positive thinking your way out of it. You can't watch one motivational video and suddenly be fine. This phase forces you to sit with questions, doubts, and uncomfortable truths, which, let's be honest, is not exactly fun. But there is a reason people talk about it, because over time something shifts. The things that used to define you start losing control over you. Your identity becomes less rigid. You stop clinging so tightly to certain beliefs, expectations, or external validation, not because you decided to be enlightened overnight, but because everything that wasn't solid already fell apart. So what you're left with is something more real, less performative, less borrowed from other people's ideas. Twin flames. You've probably heard the definition already. One soul split into two bodies, destined to find each other. It sounds intense, romantic, and very cinematic, like the kind of connection that explains why you can't stop thinking about someone even when it's clearly not going smoothly. But in real life, a twin flame connection doesn't usually feel peaceful. It feels intense, confusing, and sometimes exhausting. You meet someone and there's instant connection. They understand you in a way that feels rare, but at the same time they trigger you. Your insecurities show up, your fears come out, and suddenly what felt like something perfect starts feeling unstable. That's because the idea of a twin flame is less about perfect love and more about reflection. It's like being around someone who mirrors parts of you you haven't dealt with. A twin flame, simply put, is someone who reflects you back to yourself. The connection feels powerful because it exposes your emotional patterns, both good and bad. But intensity isn't always a sign of destiny. Sometimes it's just a sign that something unresolved is being triggered. That push and pull dynamic people call twin flames can often be attachment, fear, or unhealthy cycles. So the real meaning isn't about finding the one, it's about growth. Some of these connections stay, but many don't. Their purpose is to force self-awareness, not necessarily to become a lasting relationship. Divine timing. This one sounds beautiful, on paper, Like there's this invisible cosmic calendar where everything in your life is perfectly scheduled and all you have to do is wait and trust. It's comforting because it removes pressure. But the problem is people kind of misunderstand it. Divine timing is not an excuse to sit down and do absolutely nothing while life figures itself out for you. Most traditions that talk about timing also talk about preparation, meaning things arrive when you're ready, but readiness usually comes from action, experience, mistakes, and growth, not just waiting. If you plant nothing, divine timing is not about to grow you a forest out of pure spirituality. A better way to see it is like this. Life moves in phases, and certain outcomes make more sense at certain stages. You don't get everything the moment you want it, not because the universe is playing games with you, but because some things require context, skills, maturity, perspective. Sometimes what feels like a delay is just you not seeing the full picture yet, and sometimes it's just life being unpredictable. Not everything is a hidden spiritual message. There's also a subtle trap here. People use divine timing to cope with uncertainty, which is fine, but then it turns into passive living. If it's meant for me, it'll come. Sure, but most things that are meant for you still require you to move, decide, try, fail, adjust, and try again. Divine timing doesn't replace effort. It works alongside it. Think of it less like destiny dropping things in your lap and more like doors appearing as you walk. If you don't walk, you don't even see the doors. So at its best, the idea of divine timing helps you relax a bit. It reminds you that not everything has to happen immediately and that forcing outcomes can backfire. But at its worst, it becomes a very spiritual sounding way of procrastinating. So the balance is simple. Move like your actions matter, but stay open to the fact that results don't always show up on your schedule. That gap between effort and outcome, that's where people like to insert divine timing, spirit guides. A lot of people take the idea way too literally, like there are actual figures standing next to them 24/7, whispering instructions. In reality, many interpretations see spirit guides less as physical entities and more as symbolic ways of describing intuition, inner wisdom, or subconscious guidance. Not something you hear like a voice note, more like a quiet nudge you almost ignore. Even in esoteric systems like theosophy, the idea of guides isn't always about random spirits floating around helping you. It can be higher aspects of consciousness, archetypal forces, or structured levels of awareness. Now here's the problem. Once people believe in spirit guides, everything becomes a message. Every coincidence, every thought, every feeling suddenly means my guide is trying to tell me something. And sometimes, sure, but other times it's just your brain doing what brains do, making patterns, reacting to emotions, filling in gaps. Not every random thought is a spiritual hotline. There's also the dependency issue. If you start relying on guides for every decision, you slowly stop trusting your own judgment. And that's ironic, because most interpretations of guidance are actually pointing you back to yourself, not away from it. The idea isn't to replace your thinking, it's to refine it, to make you more aware, not more dependent. Inner child healing. The inner child is basically a way of describing the emotional patterns you developed when you were younger, the fears, reactions, habits, and beliefs you picked up when you didn't fully understand the world yet. And the thing is, those patterns don't just disappear when you grow up, they follow you. The way you react to rejection, the way you handle conflict, the things that trigger you for no obvious reason, that's usually not random, it's learned. Inner child healing is about noticing those patterns and tracing them back. For example, if small criticism hits you way harder than it should, there's usually a story behind that. And healing doesn't mean blaming the past forever, it means understanding it so it stops controlling your present. It's uncomfortable. You're not just remembering good moments, you're facing things you avoided, minimized, or didn't fully process. And sometimes you realize certain behaviors you thought were just your personality are actually defense mechanisms you built years ago. That can mess with your sense of identity a bit. Another misunderstanding is thinking healing means becoming overly emotional or fragile. It's actually the opposite. It's about becoming more stable because you understand yourself better. Instead of reacting automatically, you start catching yourself in real time. You notice the trigger, you recognize the pattern, and you choose differently. That's where the real change happens. Not in the journaling, but in how you act after you've understood.
Yep. And that's the end of that. But I wanted to go over, it was like the top 20 spiritual shit that people think they understand. And he went off into gnosis, non-duality, ego death, the higher self, spiritual awakening, the third eye, karma, God, shadow work, collective consciousness, manifestation, soul contracts, vibration, tantra, and he went off into abundance. That's what y'all popped up, I think. Yeah, that's what y'all popped up during when he was talking about vibration. But Charles been here since I was talking about God and shadow work. Yeah, I kind of yeah, it was kind of sped up a little bit, man, but it's still a robot. It's still an AI robot talking. But yeah, this just like the forms of spirituality, just like to let's try to like understand it more, try not to believe in it, but like grab our truth from it and apply it to our life and act accordingly. But like what I loved about it is it's just like the real true source and like essence of what it really truly means. Like instead of what people think they understand and they going out in the world fucking it up. you know. And some can get into what I like to call spiritual psychosis. Spiritual psychosis is wild. Like he got into it on one of them. I forgot which one it was. I don't know if it was either ego death or a higher self. It was one of them. Oh yeah. But we about to get up out of here. I just wanted to play that. Play these two videos. You already know. But shout out to everybody coming through. Shout out to Jordan. Make sure y'all check out the live. John Gilbert, you look new. What up, though? You caught the end of it. You might have to watch the playback. Okay, live stream still coming on. Oh yeah, forgot you did mention that he was having a live. But we'll try to be there. It said like the live is around what time you said it was gonna be? Hold on. I could just probably just look at his channel and find out. If he ain't live now, I'm gonna take a wild guess to say he might go live between 10 or 11. I'm about to click on it now. I'm about to click on this live now. Yeah, it's scheduled for 11:18. Shit, I might be in the middle of doing a Detroit After Dark. I'll be doing a Detroit After Dark around that time. It say the Strait of Hormuz is now open. I heard the shit was open, then it got closed again. I don't know what the fuck going on. I'm hearing Trump on some bullshit. And then I also heard like they let a couple motherfuckers in. Then I heard Iran was shooting at some motherfuckers, made motherfuckers turn around and shit. So I'm like, what the fuck going on? What the fuck going on? But like I might be live around that time. Nope. Smoking like a broke oven. But shouts out to everybody. And shout out to the dude cat John Gilbert. Shouts out. And shouts out to whoever was throwing up those hoes. Shouts out to whoever coming in on the playback. And this was Supernatural Saturday. I'll catch y'all tonight for Detroit After Dark. But chances are y'all might be going back and forth to Low Key Channel. Man, mind if I start Detroit After Dark around like 11:30. 11:30. Then I got to try to grab some clips for the Sunday service. And we should be good. And we out. Because I don't got no outro. You might just kick back, like, roll me up something, watch something. Like, as a matter of fact, I should try to grab some Sunday clips now. While it's still early. So I could just kick back and relax after my Detroit After Dark. But I catch y'all in a minute. Shout out to everybody. Yep, catch both of us. Shouts out. And holy shit, I think JVJ might go live tonight because it's Saturday. He might do a Saturday night show. But I need to know if he's going to do a pre-recorded because like sometimes he do a pre-recording. But like if he don't got nothing, it'd be a pre-recorded show. But let's see if he got something scheduled. Because he got something scheduled. Shit. Let's see. Probably nope. I don't see nothing scheduled. So if something do pop up around 10 or 11, it might be a pre-recording. Like unless he's setting up the shit now. I'm not really sure, man. But I don't see no upcoming shit. But you know, yep. Glad I got mine on the way out. Yeah, I already know. Sounds like everybody coming through. DJ Overtime, Jordan Charles. And everybody's gonna watch on the playback. I'll catch y'all on the next one. Peace. Supernatural Saturday.